everyone. Thanks so much for joining the DFMPC and CHSE Professional Learning Series. Today we're in that +1 cycle around teaching portfolios, and we thought a bit for today's session to let the interns who are also new at constructing an ePortfolio give some of their ideas and feelings and experiences around how they've gone on this journey of creating an electronic portfolio. So today, Ashad, Simone, and Christine will be presenting the session. Thank you so much, and yeah, welcome. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Yanis. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So our session today will be all about ePortfolios and will be presented by myself and my colleagues, Simone and Christine. So before we get started, I would like to just take a moment to introduce ourselves. I'm Arshad and I'm a blended learning coordinator working at the CLTD, but I'm based at the DFMPC, where I work on a lot of projects, mainly relating to instructional design. I'll hand over now to Simone and Christine to quickly introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm a designer. I do instructional design, and my main focus is on instructional design. And I'm currently an instructional designer at the DFMPC under Arshad. Simone, you can go next.
Hi, my name's Simone, and I am an instructional design intern at the DFMPC. But my main focus is that I'm an artist, and I am hoping to go into the education sector soon.
Okay, thank you, Christine and Simone. So now let's look at what we will cover today. First, Simone, Christine, and I will be reflecting on our own experiences developing our ePortfolios. Second, we will be demonstrating different platforms you can use to create your ePortfolio. And third, we will look at some important criteria for developing ePortfolios taken from a rubric that we developed. So with that being said, I will hand over now to Simone to get us started by briefly telling us why an ePortfolio is important and some of its benefits.
Okay, so why an ePortfolio is important. What is an ePortfolio firstly? An ePortfolio is honestly it's a collection of work, and it's or a work of evidence in electronic format. So it's everything that you have learned and created and done all on one online platform or many online platforms. So it's a portfolio of evidence. And the reason that this is important is that nowadays, many, if not most things, are electronic. And having a collection of your work and documentation of your learning experience online is quite important, because then it shows possibly new employers or your current employers that you've done so much work over this long period of time. So and the benefits of that is that you can use this electronic portfolio as a second copy of your work. So let's say your computer crashes, for example, and then you have no portfolio of evidence because it was all on your computer. There is now a second place on a different platform that you have your portfolio of evidence on. It can also be used as an argument. Say if you would like if you're in a company or an institution and you want to go into a different position or get an increase in a salary, you can then show your employer or your future employer why you deserve this increase in salary, or why you deserve this better position, through the portfolio of evidence that you've created and documented over the period that you had been working at that company during that time. So that's only some of the benefits and why it is important. There are others, but this is the main focus that I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you, Simone.
No problem.
Next slide, please. Okay, so our interns at DFMPC are required to develop an ePortfolio containing all of the projects that they worked on during the year. And we have regular sessions where we look at and evaluate each other's ePortfolios. And that's also where we came up with the idea to create a rubric with important criteria to evaluate an ePortfolio. But we will show you this rubric a bit later. For now, we would like to show you our own ePortfolios and share some of our experiences in developing them. So I'm now going to just share my screen and show you my ePortfolio. So this is my ePortfolio and I created it on the platform called Portfolio. We'll be showing you a few other platforms that you can also use to create your ePortfolios a bit later as well. So it starts off with an introduction, or this is usually a personal statement. It has your work experience, your previous work experience, and also a section for some of the projects that you have worked on. So this was my experience last year in some of the projects that I worked on. I will go into more detail in a moment. This is also my previous experience in my education, and then some of the informal courses that I took, such as project management, an online course on JavaScript, which was on web development, and then there's also some of your accomplishments that you can add. At the beginning, you can also see an overview of your education and your work experience and the projects you have worked on. And also the skills that you've added. I will show you a bit later as well how we can add all of these skills as we add our projects. So from my experience in creating my ePortfolio and keeping it up to date, I found that it allowed me to keep track of where I am in my career. So it allows me to regularly take a step back and reflect on what I'm working on and whether what I'm doing aligns with my overall professional goals. And I'm able to reflect on the skills that I have and the skills that I use the most. And it also allows me to keep track of my professional development plan and update it as I develop new skills and competencies. And you can also use your ePortfolio to aid your professional development plan. Also, what I like most about having an ePortfolio is that it gives me a bird's eye view of my career. And also it obviously, like Simone mentioned, it contributes a great deal to prospective employers or when aiming for a promotion. I'll now hand over again, once again to Simone and Christine to tell us about some of their experiences with the ePortfolios. So you can share your screen again.
Hi. Sorry, I was just, oops, wrong screen. There we go. So I'm not going to go too in depth on Portfolio. This is the exact same platform that our shard uses, and this is one of the base ones to use for a teaching portfolio, for example. We have some other examples that we're going to do later in this presentation. For me, what I like about this platform is that it allows you to also add your team members and who you've worked with on a project. So this is, for example, a academic integrity pamphlet that I designed for some of the different faculties. And I just added the wrong one, so I'll have to go and fix that afterwards. That's the other thing that you guys have to remember about a portfolio is that it's always a work in progress. So don't ever worry about it being done because it's never going to be completely done. So for more background, I mentioned that I am a designer. Now, for a designer, a portfolio is more important than your CV. I have worked on this specific portfolio a lot longer than the portfolio one. And this is my main design portfolio where I have uploaded some of my best work or some of the more interesting work. So for example, this is now all of the prototypes on the screen and the illustrations and the presentations. Everything here is something that I've made. And this is my portfolio of evidence. This is how I convince people that if I say I can make something for you, I mean I can make some. I know I can make it because I have done it before. So this is, for example, a logo development for the faculty advisors that I made during my internship at WITS. And there's different variations, and this is the final one, the advising community of practice. And these are just some of the projects that I have on my portfolio. I'm going to hand over now to Simone so that she can show her yours.
Hi everyone. So, like I said, we've been working on Portfolium. As an artist, a lot of my work is physical, so I would have to take a picture of it. I actually have a physical portfolio of evidence instead of an electronic one, and I'm trying to move all my art to an electronic portfolio of evidence at the moment. Right now, I've been working on my introduction and added the projects that I've done within the department, as well as my work experience and what I've done with that. So it's always a work in progress, like Christine is saying, because you're always adding to it. Another thing that I've done is I've taken Christine's advice on this, and I'm creating a portfolio in Behance as well, which is another platform, so that when I want to show prospective buyers of my art or someone who wants something done, I can show them like this is what I've done in terms of physical things that I can draw, that I can do this, and I can transfer it into an electronic platform. This one is still quite a work in progress because a lot of my stuff I do have to take actual physical pictures of it and then upload it online. So the whole idea is just to constantly keep uploading it so that it doesn't creep back up on you, and you can always edit it if you really need to. And this is the first time that I've done an online portfolio other than LinkedIn. And it's been an experience, and it's been a very interesting experience because, like I said, I mainly work physically, being an artist of that. So a lot of my work is paintings or drawings, and not stepping more into digital nowadays. But yeah, so that is still work in progress, is getting everything onto the online platform. And now,
Back to the presentation.
yes.
Okay, so now we'll be showing you some different platforms that you can use to create your ePortfolio. And in today's session, we'll be showing you 5 different platforms, and we've ranked them from easiest to hardest. the easiest being LinkedIn and Portfolio, and it increases in difficulty from Google Sites, Wix, and WordPress. So now I'm going to show you Portfolio. You have seen it previously, but I'll just share it with you again and show you how you can create your own Portfolio account. Okay, so if you go to your Portfolio, ePortfolio, you'll notice that at the top here it says Canvas, and Canvas is the same learning management system that we use at Wits University. And the reason it says Canvas here is because Portfolio is developed by the same company that that created Canvas, and it's called Instructure. So now if we click on this link, it takes us to this Instructure website. So that's just a side note. If you want to create your portfolio, ePortfolio, what you need to do is go to portfolio.com/join, or you can click this join button on someone else's ePortfolio. So if I click on it, then it will take you to this page. You can enter your email address, and it will allow you to create your account, and then it will bring you to a page similar to this, where you can click on different sections. For example, you can click on your introduction, and this is where you can add or edit your text. You can add your work experience, and also you can add some of your projects as well. So that's just a brief overview of Portfolio. I'll now hand over to, I think, Simone, to show us LinkedIn.
Yes. Let me just get it open. Right. Okay. I'm showing you a LinkedIn of from my own feed, actually. So this is something that that a lot of people are introduced to very early on. So I was introduced to LinkedIn in grade 10, I think. And this is actually one of the people I went to school with. Just to show you that it's quite an easy process, LinkedIn. So you can have your highlights. So you have just like the contact info and just like a general about you. You can also have a banner, different activities that you've done. Also, we can go in and see all the activities, what experience, and the education as well, and any licenses and certificates that they could have. Any volunteering and what leadership skills. You can always endorse someone for what skills they've got. So let's say leadership and anything else. So you can endorse someone when they do have skills. So these are the different companies and interests, schools and influences that this person is interested in. So LinkedIn is quite easy to use. It's very straightforward. So like if I go into my profile, it's quite straightforward to use. It's very like if I want to edit, I click the pencil and I can edit what information I want to do, my current position, any other things that I think are important to put in my about. Added to that, you can see how many people have actually seen your profile, what posts you've engaged with, any resources that you have, what activities, and this is all the experience that you can post in. And it's quite easy to use. It's very straightforward. Another one that I want to show is this as well. She's an old family friend, and she has been working for quite a while, and it's quite extensive. So depending on how deep your how long you've been working, obviously the more your profile will be. So your highlights, your bouts, all the experience that you have. And it's quite straightforward. So there's no like fancy footwork needed really to create your profile on LinkedIn. It's quite simple, and that's LinkedIn.
So the next sites are if you need something more than this is who I am and this is what I've done. If you want to actually have a page, but you want to use the simplest and easiest method to do it. So Wix and Google Sites are easy to use drag and drop editors that are used to make websites. You can also use them to make a personal portfolio. What you need to remember is that though that for Google Sites, I would actually Wix is mainly a website builder. There's a subtle difference, but it means that with Wix, there is a lot more capability in the back end that you can use. But for most of you, you don't need a full in-depth website. For something very simple but is fast and easy to edit, fast, easy to keep up to date, Google Sites might be easier to use. Wix also has a paid version and has more than 900 templates that you can choose from, whereas Google Sites only has 12. Wix also has paid versions with actual customer helplines so there's people who can help you if you ever, for example, want to do something specific like say sell a textbook that you've written online, then you can easily build a page on your Wix portfolio for that for as a marketing page. Now on to some examples. I'm just gonna open this. This was actually the wrong one. Give me a moment. So this is the teaching portfolio of Michelle Gaston Magban. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her name. Magbanua, and she has a lot of interesting things specifically for a teacher. So she has a growth plan, for example, what she wants to learn in the future and how she plans to learn it. She has so most of her pages on here is specifically related to her teaching and the research that she has based on her teaching and how she does each of that. Now this is done on Wix. This site, sorry, this site is a site made via Google's sites, and it is a very it is his resume, and this man specifically is a writer who has also taught at this taught I can't remember what he taught at the non-profit and government technology class at Grand Valley University public information site. So this is a very basic site and kind of boring if you think about it. This site is also made via Google sites, and this one specifically is a author as well that is selling his travel book. Now, I admit, while this is very much in a language that I don't understand, the reason I'm showing this is while it's simple, this is really, really well designed, and it's made for free via Google Sites. So this is just to give you an idea of how easy it is to make it. Now, this is just one of the templates that are available on Wix. And there are more complicated and less complicated templates that you can make use of. There is this teaching portfolio, and this is also another teaching portfolio with her work experience, her education, how to contact her. On the main page, she has a page for her teaching philosophy and some experiences that she's had teaching and some artifacts that she got from some students. So when I speak of a drag and drop, I know many of you aren't quite sure what that means. So this is a basic template, portfolio template on Google Sites. And you'll notice that it is pretty much empty. I've been playing around with it just to figure out how it works. But you literally just drag and drop, then you add an image. I'm just going to go some of the images I have here. And it's that simple. The images are some of the ones that I have uploaded on my Google Drive. Just going to insert that one. You can also share documents and easily move them around. So this, for example, is another document made for the Faculty of Health Sciences. And this is how simple it is to use these platforms. So the next one is WordPress, which Arshad is going to show you.
I believe Simone is going to.
Oh,
I'm
was
showing
it Simone?
WordPress. Yes.
I'm sorry.
No worries. So WordPress is quite an intense, it's a powerful site builder. And it is, the aim of it is to create an online presence in minutes. However, creating an ePortfolio is a big investment. So the more time you spend on creating this ePortfolio, the better it will look. Here is an example of Irene Welch. It's quite a very, it's even though the design of it is very simplistic, starting out with her welcome to my ePortfolio and her short, her quite short mission statement. So there's not a wall of text that you have to first go through before going to anything else. Added to that, there's also, she's created different pages where you can go look for, if you want to look into her and see what her actual references are and stuff like that. So like this is more about her, like she writes personal poetry, and you go from there. So it's, even though the design of it is quite simplistic, you can tell that there's a lot of effort that was put into making it. So this makes WordPress one of the harder sites to almost look into and create. So I thought I'd show like a little small presentations. This is my own WordPress that I have not populated yet. The way you started, you've got your home page that you would edit with like in Irene's case, the welcome page, and then you go and add a new page, and from there you have a few things to choose from if it actually decides to load. There we go. You have a few things to choose from. There is a paid version for it where you can actually have, instead of wordpress.com, you can have just .com. But again, that's a paid for thing. So there are various sites that you can use, or themes that you can use. So I'm just going to pick a random one. And you can just populate it with the information that you really want to have. And if you want, you can add a new page or a new paragraph or image. So it takes a lot of time and effort to actually create the pages and populate them. But if you are willing to put in the time and the effort to sit down and see how it's going to go, what is required, then it should go smoothly. But it is quite an extensive time that you would be putting in creating your own page. Instead of using like a site like Portfolio or Behance, you'd be creating your own web page that future bosses and companies can look at to to reference you and to vet you. Even, for example, in this case, she's got a police check there, and these things do require like regular updates. Like, so you have to get a password to enter, so it requires regular updates. So you'd be going in the whole time and just updating your website. But this is an actual website that you could give to someone to look up, and that is WordPress. And I'll be handing over.
Hi, I'm just sharing my screen again.
As I mentioned previously, our interns are required to have an ePortfolio, and once a month we meet to evaluate each other's ePortfolios. And to do this, we collectively came up with a rubric that we make adjustments to when necessary, and we use it to evaluate each other's ePortfolios. So this rubric is made up of the following 6 criteria. The first is, you can move to the next slide. The first is having a good profile photo and a good personal branding, having a personal statement, whether it is well structured and cohesive, if it's visually appealing, and if you've added the projects that you have worked on. So we'll be going a bit in depth into each one of them. Christine would be looking at the first 2, so I'll hand over to her.
To begin with, I'm going to begin with the first criterion, and well, in my case, it's going to be about good personal branding. Everyone is aware of the word branding, but I would like to explain exactly what it is by comparing it to marketing. Marketing is pushing content out into the world, and branding is what your audience makes of it. So what does this mean exactly? Well, to illustrate this, imagine that you have this metaphorical hat. In this hat, you put a bunch of stuff. Stuff like your logos, your business name, advertising, publications, etc. This is marketing. Now, branding is when you give this hat to someone and they put this on their head. What meaning of the content in the hat they make is branding, and it is not necessarily the meaning you meant to push. So there are a bunch of official definitions, but in essence, personal branding is a process of developing a professional identity. And a portfolio is a method of presenting this professional identity to the online world. So what should you add as personal branding? For most portfolios, that would include a one-page resume, consistent design, and good use of jargon relating to your profession as needed. So the resume is a one-page document that you don't mind the public having access to. You do not add your full CV on your portfolio, as it may have information that you don't want the public to have. Another thing is that you don't necessarily need to add your ID to your CV. Whichever business you're contacting should ask you for personal, directly for private information like ID numbers and so forth. As for consistent design, this is something that refers to, that is something that matches your professional identity. For example, as a designer, I need a well-designed, unique portfolio um, to illustrate the type of work I do as a designer. But for educators, like most of our audience, you need to focus more on sharing your teaching philosophies, what publications that you have out in the world and where they can get them, what conferences you've been asked to speak on, and even some student reflections on how they find your teaching style could be valuable. You might also want to make sure that you don't dumb down the jargon on your portfolio. People want to see your work, and who want to see your work are probably going to be colleagues or people who are interested in your profession. So for the doctors, this means you don't have to dumb down um, whatever illness and treatment plans you're talking about in your publications, for example. Um, it does take a bit of, it does have some nuance. For example, if you, for example, want to be the dean um, in the future and you want to um, share your professional identity for students, not all of the students will care about your professions in that case. But for most of us, that is not something that's needed for your personal professional branding. Now, moving on to the next criterion, which is a good profile photo. I added some examples that we've been looking at on the screen. And I would like to talk about why they are different and why it is important to have one. So a profile photo is the first thing people use to get an idea of who you are. I know many people dislike taking photos of themselves. In that case, you can always just add a illustration or something similar instead. You can make these types of illustrations of yourself via many of online apps. Um, as for some tips on how to take a good profile photo, I would like to share the um, profile photos of the lovely ladies below here. They are some of our colleagues. You'll notice that neither of them are standing straight with their back against the wall, looking straight at the camera. They're also smiling. That is usually it's as simple as that to make a good profile photo. So for us, I'm just going to share my screen so that I can show you guys. Let me just, there we go. Sorry, I'm looking at my other screen here. If you just sit, if you sit and look, move your body slightly skew, look straight at the camera and smile. And that's as simple as that to get a good profile picture. You don't necessarily need to have an entire photo shoot to figure this process out. Next, Simone is going to speak on some things that you can do to make your portfolio more visually appealing and tips on how to structure it.
Thank you. So firstly, I would like to show you what it would be to have a bad portfolio or bad web page. Christine, if you could please share that on your side. Okay, so a unstructured and visually unappealing web page would be this. You don't know what you're looking at. You don't know where to go. There's too many things going on. The frame background is just a lot. It's too much to deal with in one go. There's even with what we're currently looking at now, which is the green and the arrows, there is a different movement going on. It's all too much on one web page. So it doesn't make sense and you don't actually know where to click. You're just scrolling for scrolling's sake, and honestly, it's a very bad representation of what you should be doing because it's honestly very confusing. So a good web page would be, and I will share my screen. Sorry. Oh, I hate this thing so much. I'm going to go back to Irene Welch's webpage. I would say this would be a very good web page, but not only because it's very well structured in terms of you can pretty much find everything that you need to about Irene Welch if you're looking for if you're looking to employ her or just doing a general look at her portfolio. You can find reference letters. Everything that you need to find is at the top here. It's very minimalistic, but there is a nice picture that draws your eye in, and the movement of the portfolio is downwards. So there's only one way to move, up and down. It's not too much to look at. You can go look at the about, which is quite nice, and it's all very well structured. So well structured and visually appealing go hand in hand, because you can't have something that isn't well structured and then it looks very nice, because then you wouldn't know where to go. But if you have something that is well structured but then doesn't look nice, then it also defeats the point. It doesn't draw in potential job opportunities or your colleagues to look at your portfolio. But if something's visually appealing, it actually draws people in to look at things more. It's actually take a closer look at things. And I will hand over to Ashad now.
So the next important criteria on our rubric is having a good personal statement. And your personal statement is usually the first thing that someone looks at when they visit your ePortfolio. It's that piece of the introduction, which I showed you on my portfolio, ePortfolio. And so we came up with a structure to write your personal statement, and it includes having 5 different pieces of information. This includes your current role, your education background, your key skills, a high-level overview of your professional goals, and something interesting about you. So you'll see on the right-hand side, I've added my personal statement and I've color-coded the different parts of it. You'll see that I've added my current role. I've also added my key skills, and then I've added my education background, as well as one sentence on my professional goals. And lastly, just something about me. It can be anything. And you don't have to use the structure, but I think this kind of structure incorporates everything important that you should add in your personal statement. Okay, so moving on, now the next thing we'll be looking at is adding the projects that you have worked on. And the different platforms that we've mentioned has different ways of adding your projects and showcasing it to viewers. I'm going to share my screen again and show you some of the projects on Portfolio. So At the beginning of this session, I just briefly showed you this, but now I'll go into a bit more detail. So this is one project that I worked on last year called the NMFC Academic Success Course. And if you click on it, you'll see that you can add a title of the project, and you can add images which show what the project looks like. So I've added a picture of the banner from the Ulwazi site and screenshots from different sessions that I developed. At the bottom, you can also add a description of the project. And then on the right hand side, you can add different skills that you've used while working on this project. So for example, I used the software articulate storyline. I've used the Canvas LMS. I had to do some curriculum development, graphic design, research, and you can also add tags at the bottom. So this would make it easy for people to find your project. If someone is looking for a project on the Portfolio website on instructional design, for example, then yours might come up if you tag it using this instructional design tag. I'll now move on to a project that Christine worked on this year for the nursing system science. And for this, I want to show you that you can also add teammates to the project. So these are some of the team members who also worked on the project that Christine added to her portfolio. So that's also another option that you can add when adding projects onto your ePortfolio. If you use a platform such as Wix, this is another portfolio. You can see this person added a page called My Work, and under here she added all of her projects on one page, and she added just one image, or in some cases she added a PDF document as well. You can also do the same thing if you're using something like WordPress. Okay, so moving back to our presentation. The last thing I'd like to ask is if anyone has any questions, comments, or feedback on their own ePortfolios, or if they would like us to assist them with in any way with their own ePortfolios. Okay, so if looks like there isn't any questions from anyone. Simone and Christine, do you have any last comments to add?
If you want some more in-depth presentations in the future on specifically just design principles and where to get images, where can you get different software to make icons of yourself, let us know and we'll see if we can work something out.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So once again, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you found this session informative. So just to mention, our next theme in the professional learning series would be on the name of the theme is What Do Marks Mean? And this theme would focus on us moving away from marks and trying to find different ways of assessing. So I look forward to seeing you in our next sessions, and hope you have enjoyed the rest of your day. I'll see you next time.